Hello, rodeo fans. Welcome to episode 19 of the Short Round, the official podcast of the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association. I'm your host, Wacey Anderson, once again joined by my pal Clay Creasy. Clay, I think we've made it through Cowboy Christmas 2.0. It was a crazy, crazy run of events. We had bronc ride and SMS tour rodeos and people winning big checks, but it's been we're gonna see some big movers and shakers once the latest set of standings comes out here.
Yeah, they're no kidding. I mean, again, as we were talking about before we got going here, I mean, this last 10 days coming up to this weekend here,
Hmm.
we got four tour rodeos out of five rodeos. And again, Strathmore's got 20,000
Hmm.
added. I mean,
Look,
Lacrete
look,
all of a sudden
they're
being
to a
that tour
rodeo now, eh?
rodeo and Regina and finishing off with Dawson Creek coming up this weekend. Yeah, I mean, we might see an updated set of standings today, but it's probably not finishing until after the
After
weekend
Dawson Creek, yeah. Well,
and
not.
and everything. But some big moments for sure.
Oh, and it's gonna be crazy. Not only the implications this has on the CFR like standings and whatever, top 12 standings, like this is gonna have a big kind of impact on the SMS Tour standings, which again leads into the SMS Tour finals in Armstrong coming up at the end of the month, which is gonna be, I think, really pivotal when it comes to season leader title races, people in the bubble getting in. Like there's gonna be some really big jumps across the board.
There's no doubt. It's just again, you basically take what was the SMS Tour standings because again, that one you're looking at it and you just throw that in a blender after this last weekend.
Yeah.
It's just a big it's yeah, it's anybody's game and there's nothing that anybody was on the outside of that they couldn't have overcome here. Because again, as much as some of these rodeos are bigger money wise, again, it's points.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so again, that four rodeos, you had to be on it and you had to give her and yeah, it'll be cool to see where we're at coming up.
Oh man,
So
it's crazy. And you noted how like a lot of bubble competitors made money and points and everything over this past week and a half. So that, like you said, those SMS tour standings are gonna get thrown in a blender. And then also it's gonna play into the hand of these bubble people who are making big time runs and rides at these rodeos. It's gonna be wild.
you're seeing some people that are again being on the outside isn't too big for them.
Hmm.
They're
Hmm.
knowing that they got to rise up and they know they've got their opportunities. Again, rodeo. Yeah, so much of the time we think we always have to be doing so well all the time, and you have to wait for your opportunities sometimes. You're
Hmm.
not going to get everything to work every day. I mean, the draw is a part of it. Everything's a part of the weather. I mean, you just have to be ready when your chance comes to make it count. And we're seeing a lot of people that have.
Well, and I think one of the cool things, like, and we've talked about this a lot, it's like a common theme over the past whatever, however many months now or weeks, I guess. But like, there's so much more money available that like it's anybody has a chance. Like, you can have someone sitting in 15th or 16th. Like, we'll see after we wrap up this weekend's competition that jump into the top 12 or people catching up on the season leader side of things. Like, if you're gunning for a season leader title, you cannot take your foot off the pedal. Like there's too much money out there to be won somebody will catch you if you kind of let off a little bit.
There, absolutely. It's again, whether you're first or 18th or 20th,
Hmm.
there's something to be fought for right now. So we got a
Yeah.
lot on the go and yeah, it's a busy time here.
Yeah. Well, it's gonna be fun, man. I'm excited to watch these last couple weeks of competition. It'll be when the dust settles after Armstrong. It's gonna be fun to see kind of who remains and who will be heading up to Edmonton here just a little bit. But anyways, Clay, I think that's a good place for us to jump into our weekend recap. So we had some again, like with all the money available, some big movers, some people making some big rides. But let's kick things off with the bareback ride and let's see what do we got.
The biggest moment of the weekend, I think, would you have to go with Clint Lay, 90 and a quarter to just quarter point the win at Strathmore again
Hmm.
on his new favorite horse. I think he's got to say True Grit there of Volds. Uh, he win $5,900 out of there, and the interesting thing, that horse has been around a long time.
Hmm.
I mean, I can remember that horse being in the short round at Strathmore my last year rodeo and in 2013. And Clint's been around a long time, but it wasn't until last CFR that they actually ever matched up.
Hmm.
Well, now he drew True Grit again at Wainwright, and I happened to run into his dad there the other day in Provost, and even though Clint got the win in Wainwright, he wasn't happy with how he rode him entirely, and so really was ready to roll here in Strathmore, and you can see
Oh
he needed
man.
to.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Wainwright and Strathmore, they're just this time of year, that extra bit of money drew a few more of those guys up here, and just the horses were top notch there in Strathmore, and yeah, he needed every, like I said, every quarter point to get that win.
Oh
So
man. Well, and
momentum.
that was a big ride for Clint because he's kind of been a little bit quiet over the last, what do you say, 6 weeks, like month. Like hasn't really been popping up and kind of let that season leader gap between him and Oren get more and more. So I mean, that was a huge ride at the end of the day for Clint.
Yeah, he had some rigging trouble. I know I when I went over to Pinoca there is I traveled over there, give his mom a ride over because Darcy was camped out there, and yeah, the night before he was down south and it broke his rigging, but in the end I think that rigging that broke might have been holding him back a bit anyways, but it
Hmm
still takes
hmm
that time to get that figured out, and you get those bumps and bruises. I mean, he's getting to be where there's a lot of rodeo miles on him and stuff, but that I mean he gets that right horse, and
Oh man.
he makes such a good ride.
Yeah. Another guy who had a huge weekend is Jacob Stemo. I know he's kind of dipped his toe back into going a little bit, kind of not going too hard, but made a big ride in Strathmore, won Regina, and he's another guy who's got himself into that CFR conversation now.
Absolutely. Again, yeah, he over double his season earnings there. I thought it was so cool there to see him get the invite, stop going to work in Calgary and pop in as a fill-in in Calgary, and something like that just kind of makes the guy go, you know what, I still got it. I want to get out
hmm
there. I want to enter a few more, and you can tell he still has it in him, and
hmm
rode so well at Calgary, and it's just carrying on here again. A big win to start this stretch of week or rodeos there with Regina, and again, 88 goes fourth in Strathmore,
Crazy,
and
man. I thought that was when I saw that, I thought it was gonna be the winner.
yeah, yeah, but tough. I mean, still pulled a good chunk of
Hmm
money out of there, and for the weekend, I mean, $5,700. That's yeah.
Go a
It
long way,
takes a little
man.
bit in the office to make that much. So
Well, and then Jake's one of the good guys. He's always happy to see a guy and has a great attitude. So I'm happy to see him have some success, and hopefully he can keep on going and get into that CFR. It'd be awesome to see him there. In the steer wrestling, so it kind of leads into our guest this week. We have Landon Beardsworth coming on the show, and he's probably the one of the hottest guys in rodeo right now up in Canada. He's won a ton of money. Now he's one of those guys who's got himself in the conversation for season leader as we head into his would be his first CFR.
you bet. And again, we'll talk about maybe some of that mentorship here in a second with our other steer wrestler that had a big weekend. But yeah, for a guy that's just been on the outside looking in the past, I mean, he is not showing it this year. It's just been gangbusters. I mean, again, making these notes, I just had to change the rodeos and the times, but I mean, he's at the top of our standings, and I mean, you make 9,000 in a weekend. Holy
Oh,
cow! Yeah, that
that's
takes
awesome.
you a lot of places, and again, he's just showing that right now he is just hitting his stride. And again, that fact that Edmonton is just this much earlier. I mean, you don't think he'll lose any of that momentum. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
he's going to keep it rolling here, and as I was saying, I mean, a lot of his credit that he gives goes to Scotty Guenthner,
hmm
riding his horse, traveling with him. I mean, you hope to just see a guy be a sponge and absorb everything that a guy like Scotty can give you, and you can tell he
Oh
does,
my
right?
gosh, you can, right? Like, oh,
Just that whole crew, I think, just have a lot of fun and do really well. I mean, work so well together. And
mhm.
you see Scotty again. He's not just the mentor. He won Regina, split second in Lacrosse. I mean, he makes $5,200, and yeah, I mean, both of those guys are in contention going into the CFR for that season leader spot. So it's going to be again another fight. I saw Cody made some more money this last weekend too. So there's nobody's backing off. the top of that standings for
Oh,
sure.
it's gonna be fun. I'm sure it's gonna be fun for those two guys to chase each other down to the end of down to the wire at the end of the season. And we like we get Lionel and I talked about this in the interview, but it's cool to see like Scott's after this weekend's gonna be back in the top 15 in the world in the Steer Wrestling, and it's like it's wild how he's able to be that consistent and win that much money in Canada. And it sounds like Landon's got Scotty convinced to go do the Northwest run here through the next few weeks. So hopefully Scott can solidify his spot and make it back down to Vegas. But it's just been amazing to watch those two guys like go down the road the last few weeks.
Yeah, again, good to hear that. Yeah, he's looking to do that to push. And again, like I said
Hmm.
before, I mean, the fact that the CFR cutoff is when it is, and suddenly you can kind of say, you know what? Let's keep rodeoing in September. Let's keep
Hmm.
our foot on the gas so that when the end of September comes, I mean, you hope you're sitting there in the top of the 15 in the world, and then you're rolling right into Edmonton like nobody's business. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's cool to see, and yeah, getting those young guys that are like, you know what, I want to get in there.
Yeah.
I want to try and get that money won enough so I can be in the top 50, and next winter I can hit it down south. And hey, you know what, Scotty? I mean, I'll drive. Just catch the train. I'll get you down there.
Yeah.
So just yeah, it's all good to see.
Oh, it's exciting times. In the breakaway roping, we had I guess another record tying run from the gal who broke the record a few months ago over there in Innisfil. But Shea Beaver, she wins the Pile of Bones Pro Rodeo with a 1.6 second run to tie her Canadian record. Uh, I think someone was commenting on the video that she kind of owns that arena, so I'd have to go back and check all the stats, but she must be having some good success over there at the old Brant Center.
Yeah, again, she is just a gunslinger. That's just to do it once is something, but to do it twice in the same season and tie your own record, that just goes to show you it's not luck.
There's something there.
She got it in her, and she
Yeah.
needs it right now. I mean, she was 14th in the
Hmm.
standings. Again, that breakaway is so tight and everything like that. So I mean, that money's going to go a long ways. Uh, yeah, it's just amazing to see her pull it off again. And yeah, on the other end, you got Kendall Pearson here, who's a ways back in Canada, but
Her
she went
traveling
out one.
partner.
Yep, yep. And goes out, wins Strathmore. I mean, that's the biggest payday of the weekend. She was sitting 30th in Canada here, but suddenly that win pushes her to be a dark horse here. And as
She's
you
gonna
were
be
mentioning,
so sorry, quick math.
yeah,
So she was at 3,300, and that
yeah.
6,000 bucks from the weekend is gonna put her like right around like 10th, 11th, 12th after it's all added
So
up. It's crazy.
yeah, so she'll have 6,001. She didn't make 6,000.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah,
never mind.
yeah,
Never mind. Okay, bad
yeah.
math.
No,
Sorry.
I know. But still, again, you got Armstrong, you got that in
Mhm.
there, and you got a few other rodeos here and stuff. It's there. I wouldn't count her out
No,
either.
you
She's
can't. You can't. She's a Canadian champion for a reason. She's a top
yeah,
15 in the world for a reason. Like that's one gal you cannot count out for sure.
yeah, she's a silent assassin when it comes to that breakaway rope, and like she just takes care of business.
You're rolling with your descriptor words today, Clay. I love it. Saddle bronc riding. So we had a couple guys do some good. Dawson Hay, Wyatt Casper, but I'll let you roll into it, Clay, to give us the saddle bronc riding breakdown from this past weekend.
Dawson Hay drawing Little Muffin. Again, Dawson's not a big guy. Little Muffin's not a big horse, but they both make big moments and partnering them up together. I mean, that's a huge payday. Again, Zeke just won the long round at Stettler on Little Muffin, so that was a big week for that horse. And I mean, Dawson made 6,500 bucks. Again, when you look at the rodeo count for him, I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know if necessarily it's a priority up here. I mean, he's in that dogfight for the NFR again, and right now there's 16 guys that are all in the fight for again only 15 spots, and I looked at it. There's $10,000 between 10th and 16th. There's a bit of a fall off after 16. Not to say that there's not enough money. And again, we got almost
Mhm.
2 months of rodeo left down there for those guys, but he's in the thick of that fight, and you know the paychecks are a little bigger for a round in Vegas. So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't know if he will be focusing up here enough to get all of his rodeos. Again, there are a lot of good rodeos up here with good money, and it's not like you have to necessarily leave money on the table to come
Hmm.
rodeo up here. You're seeing these
No.
bronc riders that are coming up here, like a Wyatt Casper that again wins Regina with a 86 and a half on a
Hmm.
horse named
Hmm.
Cankleberry. I just had to make sure that you can't forget about one like that. But
Yeah.
again, also makes a drive all the way up to Lacrete, and that bronc riding's tough up there.
Oh man.
It was he pulled third up there. I mean, he makes 4,800 bucks. He's looking to get his rodeo count, but that's not a guarantee. Even with that big of a weekend, he's still in the fight for it. And it looks like Zachary Dallas and Cade Bruno are also going to push to get their rodeo counts in.
Hmm.
So suddenly it's not like, oh, I got to be 14th, 15th. You got to be in the top 12 or 13th to
Oh
make it.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
there's no guarantees in that event right
it's
now
gonna
at
be
all.
fun. Yeah, you got it's kind of cool. You got like really good bubble fights going on at both sides of the border, like he talks about with Dawson Hay and Colby Wanchuk and Ben Anderson. Those guys are fighting for those last spots in Vegas, but there's also people fighting for the last spots in Edmonton. It's gonna be such a thrilling finish to the end of the season, and especially in the saddle riding. I'm stoked to see just how that all works out. And there's so
Yeah,
much
I saw
money.
Ben Anderson had a big day there, I think in Hermiston too. So
Yeah, yeah.
it'll be keep on going.
Yeah, he's kind of starting to heat up. He was kind of at a slow run there through Cal. Well, I mean, I guess the heater kind of started in Calgary, but leading into that, he was kind of picking away. He was 82 here, 84 there, but now he's starting to get those big rides put together and making some moves. So hopefully Ben can lock her down and get back to Vegas. Tie down roping. We got a couple Cowboys. Well, the season leader who was our special guest last week, our last episode, Logan Bird picked up a bunch of money. And Chase Webster also picked up a big check over there in Strathmore. But give us the tie down rope and breakdown, Clay.
I had to do a little recon here this morning on this Chase Webster. It was a name I hadn't heard before. I couldn't find him in either set of standings, world or Canadian, but
Hmm.
Utah Cowboy made the trip up to Strathmore and definitely showed up and 7.6 seconds to take the win and 6,100 bucks. I mean, it's a pretty good payday. And Logan Bird, yeah, like you say, wins Regina. He's 8 seconds there and placed at all four of the rodeos we've seen in the past 10 days. Again, that's his game. He
Hmm.
talked
Hmm.
about it in his interview there last week. I mean, he's got the horsepower. He knows just don't break the barrier, make your run, get your money. And he showed that here. I mean, he made over 6,000 as well. He's maintaining that spot at the top of the tie down rope and standings. As he said, his big thing is as much to be season leader as it is to put some space between himself
Yes.
and Hayden Edged there. Because
I was
when
gonna
it
say
comes
that's
down
the
to
most
five
important
runs
thing.
in Edmonton, yeah, it's hard to beat a guy like Haven. So you can tell he's on a roll and he's just keeping going, keeping consistent, and making those runs every time.
Yeah, it's funny. It's kind of a similar story to like Zeke and the Bronc ride. It's like whatever you do, don't give Haven or Zeke a head start head into the finals because it's gonna be a it's gonna be a tough go for no matter who it is. All right, Clay, we got some barrel racing too. Tacey Matthews comes up, wins Strathmore. Taylor Manning, she's been quiet recently, I guess. We haven't seen her name pop up a lot in like the top two or three placings at place at most rodeos, but picks up nearly $10,000 in the weekend and makes some moves towards that um season leader placing, I guess you can call it. She was kind of out of she's I was gonna put it right back in the mix anyways for season leaders where I was going with that. Sorry, I blanked out for a second.
It happens. I can tell you that I'm kind of running on that too. But Casey Matthews again had a
Hmm.
huge run in Strathmore. I mean, again, that's a big regulation pattern, and to go 17.13, I think she was 2 or 3 tenths faster than the field at least. And I mean, that's almost $7,000. She's a little ways out of it down south, not really necessarily in it up here, but uh, shoot, you start making checks like that again, it's anybody's game. But yeah, Taylor Manning, I mean, again, yeah, I mean, she started off the year, it was everywhere. She was winning or
Hmm.
second, and yeah, kind of again, a little bit of a lull there, and maybe a few of them caught her, passed her. You see some of those big rodeos, but yeah, a big statement weekend I mean, second at Regina and Lacrete, fourth in
Mhm.
Strathmore. No wins, but again, you add those 3 runs up together, you got to be happy with your horses. You
Mhm.
make over $9,000, and yeah, it's. I know some of the other girls at the top there got some money made this last week as well, but she's definitely still in the fight there. So we'll
Yeah, it's
see
gonna
this
be.
one coming down to
It
the
seems
end
like
of it.
it seems like every event there's like 5 or 6 people within striking distance of that season leader title. So we've been like beating that horse to death throughout this episode, but it's gonna be so much fun just to watch how this all comes to fruition at the end of it all. But all right, so team roping, Clay, we got Luke Scottapole, Garrett Brownlee pick up a big check between Strathmore and Lacrete, and then I don't know. We're still trying to figure out if this is a new team or just the way things are working out. But Trey Glay and Jeremy Bueller also pick up a bunch of money as we wrap up last weekend.
You bet. So again, Luke Scottapole, I mean, the Scottapole name there in Big Valley, that arena has raised some team ropers
Hmm.
and everything. And, just cool to see them get on a roll here. I mean, that 5-7 to split Strathmore, ended up second in Lacrete. I mean, you make again almost $7,000 in a weekend. That puts you right in the thick of it. But yeah, it's interesting to see. Again, we're not sure what Dustin Bird is up to right now.
Hmm.
I mean, maybe for him, he's not as worried about pushing on that season leader up here. I mean, he's got it. He's leading it right now, but we see Trey Galley's partnered up with Jeremy Bueller here this last stretch, and I mean, they made over 5 grand, and Trey was on the outside. Jeremy was sitting there as season leader on the healing side, and I mean that worked to both of their advantage to maybe meet their needs. So it's great to see. And another team I wanted to give a shout out to was Cash Bonnet and Logan Spady. Again, those guys have been roping good on both sides of the border all year. Again, had a good reward here. They won Lacrete just the other day and were second at Regina. They were 16th in the Canadian standings before the weekend, $4,700. Again, throws them right into the mix. Those both being tour rodeos gives them some important points and puts them in that contention in that spot to just be at the table when Armstrong comes around.
Yeah, that's the biggest plus thing you want. You want to be able to be at that conversation at the table for Armstrong. And it's kind of funny. You were talking about Trey Glay and Jeremy Bueller. It's like of all the guys that Trey probably could have picked up for their back half of the season, Jeremy would be top pick for everybody. It's like you just spin
Oh,
him and that guy's catching 2 feet like
yeah.
9.5 times out of 10. So it's pretty
Yeah,
awesome to
no,
see.
no offense to most of the other healers, but your header might drop you for Jeremy Bueller at any given. I, I'm not gonna name other people specifically for that sake, but again, it's kind of like you're crazy not to. I mean, I would
Oh my
pretend to know
gosh.
what I'm doing spinning steers if I get Jeremy
Oh my
Bueller
gosh.
cleaning it
That's
up
like
for me.
that's like playing first line with Connor McDavid just as an average guy. You're scoring 20 goals no matter what. So that's pretty
Yeah.
pretty fun to watch. So again, kudos to those guys. They're rolling. In the bull riding, we got young gun Grady Young picking up over $10,000 on the weekend. And he's again one of those guys that got himself in the conversation for that season leader title, and he's gonna be. I think my I'm not when I made my bold prediction a few weeks ago with Tim Ellis, I was like just throwing it out there. Might sound a little bit crazy, but just seeing the way Grady's kind of come into his own here, it's actually doesn't seem too far fetched to see him knock on the door for an aggregate title and as a Canadian his first Canadian championship.
Yeah, and I saw when they were talking about the results. I mean, 3 years ago he was at the CFR and steer ride.
Yeah, man, it's
Like,
crazy.
but he is again, the bull riding is some of the time can be that young man's game,
Hmm.
and he is just, yeah, gangbusters, and not a lot of guys stayed on at Strathmore, so that ground money just added up
Oh
big as
yeah.
well. So again, that all counts, and yeah, big ride in Strathmore, couple other placings, that 10 grand, that's a heck
A
of a
lot of money.
stretch.
Exactly. It's a lot of money in your anglers there at the end of the weekend. And like another guy who benefited from that was Garrett Green. He was sitting 18th heading into the weekend, but he picks up $7,200 after getting some rides in Strathmore and Grimshaw, and then another guy who's got himself in the conversation to get back to the CFR. It's been a while since we've seen Garrett Green there. So it's anybody's game in these in the top 12 here, and these as we see by all these big checks people are winning, it's gonna be a dogfight, no matter where you are on that list as we head into Armstrong and the SMS Tour finals.
You betcha. And I said with Grady, it's a young man's game, but the old dog comes to fight there too some days, and you know that he knows what he's got to do to get there,
Hmm.
and so I'm pulling for Garrett. I mean, Garrett and Leighton, those guys are you can't not cheer for them.
Yeah, they're
They're
good dudes,
just
man.
top-notch guys, great competitors and great guys. You
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
yeah, you
you
want to see
can't
them
not
get.
root for them. Yeah, you can't not root for them, man. They're good people. Um, so we had some cool stuff go down in the novice events this weekend too. Clay, we got Clay Greenslade. He won the novice saddle bronc and the novice bareback in the Crete, which is something that doesn't usually happen.
No, again, and I started looking. His dad Andy was a bareback rider, and it looks like Clay kind of leans towards the saddle bronc riding. But I'd happen to notice that he ended up in the top 10 in the national high school finals in the all around. I think had good showings on both events down there, and maybe decided to think that we're going all the way to Crete. We might
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 as
as
well enter
well
both.
and pay for a little bit more fuel money. And you win both of those events up there. He's in the fight for the CFR. They only take three in the novice. He's sitting fourth in the novice saddle bronc right now. So who knows if he'll try and focus just on the bronc riding going
Hmm.
forward. But this is a guy that we could see start really picking away at it on both ends and develop there and and continue to grow and get better. I mean, he's been putting up some big scores. I mean, he was 82
Yeah,
to win
yeah.
novice saddle bronc riding and some of the, I mean, he's winning a lot at those amateur rodeos and just really honing his craft. I mean, the fact that those amateur rodeos count for this novice, I mean, you got to be rodeoing.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
back when I was rodeoing, I mean, this end of the year kind of gets to be the twilight of it in the novice, and kind of things are kind of where they are, but
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
not like that now, and those guys are all just fighting for it. So it'll be
Well, even
cool to see.
look at the Canadian standings. Like Lonnie Dunn has $9,000 won. Like it's some they're winning pretty big money at that's part of their level of their career.
Yeah, I mean, again, when a guy gets rodeo and amateur and novice pro, there you can be making a lot of money, but it doesn't always pool together like it does now.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's really cool to see those guys again hitting those rodeos all over. We need them.
Yeah.
The semi-pro circuit needs those guys. That's where the CPRA didn't want to necessarily put them in a spot where they kind of had to choose
Hmm.
that Canadian title or competing at the semi-pro level. They give them the best of both worlds, and then in the end, you get guys that it's you're not kind of just going over here or there. You're able to do both and show who is that top young bronc rider or bareback rider that's
Hmm.
that's out there.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it just makes for better cowboys and cowgirls as we when they get to move on to that next step, whatever it may be in their career. Speaking of cowgirls, a fan favorite, Havana Arsby, picks up a big win in Strathmore to get herself back in the mix to get back to the CFR this year.
You bet. I mean, she's been there before. She's a top competitor. I mean, she was sitting 12th before the weekend, but 3 grand added in the novice events and the steer riding at Strathmore. I mean, she took home $1,650, was 12th, but
Mhm.
that's throwing her right into the mix. And again, we're down to the wire here, so it doesn't matter if it's the open events or these novice and steer riders. They're all going, and it'll
Yeah,
be really cool.
it's gonna be fun. Like we said, it's these last few weeks of the season are gonna be so much fun to follow along with, and it works out so great that people can watch on the Cowboy channel. There's so many different ways to keep up with everything. But Clay, I think this is a good time as any to throw to our interview this week. I think people are sick of hearing us jab for a little bit, but we'll. It was really fun to catch up with Landon Beardsworth. He's a good kid and he got a really great attitude. So we'll throw to that, and we'll catch you all right after this. Welcome back to the Short Round Podcast. I'm super stoked to bring in my next guest. He's probably the hottest guy on the trail right now in the steer wrestling. His name is Landon Beardsworth, coming off a huge weekend. Thanks for taking the time, Landon. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me.
So before we get into like this season and kind of how the last couple weeks have been going for you, I want to get your story. I don't know you that well. It's the first time we actually had a conversation, but just kind of give me a
For sure.
background on how you got your start in rodeo and a bit about your family and how you've gotten to this point today.
Yeah, it's kind of a long story, I guess. My dad roped calves amateur for just a few years there. Kind of got started later on in life, and he went to high school, and we grew up pretty much neighbors to Robinson's there, Larry Robinson.
Hmm.
And so yeah, he started roping with him, and that was kind of just my little bit of involvement in it when I was younger. And he, by the time I was old enough to know what was going on, he was kind of done with it. And
Hmm.
my brothers didn't have a whole lot of interest in it. And it was just wasn't something I was really pressured into doing because it wasn't like our whole family did it or weren't born into it by any ways or any means. So I just kind of always had a little interest in it with just kind of the pictures and everything around. We had some horses around and whatnot. And then I just, yeah, I started hanging out a lot more with Ben Robinson and Ryan Shuckberg and that, and just kind of around it a lot and started to really enjoy just kind of everything to do with the lifestyle and whatnot, and just kind of dove into it and decided I wanted to start roping, and went to Joe Lucas's dummy roping school when I was 10 or 11. And after that, yeah, roped a packed a bale with me everywhere I went and roped the dummy and thought I was going to be a calf roper. And then I was probably 12 or 13, and I just told this story not that long ago for the first time, but I was in there getting a pair of jeans, and there was a poster on the wall of Lee Graves bulldogging at Calgary, and I had never even thought about bulldogging before, but I seen that picture and I was like, that is the most badass thing that I've seen. And I walked out of there and told my mom I was going to be a bulldogger. And we, yeah, started talking to Tom Shuckberg and got me out there and went to this guy, Greg Ford's place out by Innisfail, and just started, yeah, running steers and kind of getting her figured out. And I kind of went the long way about it. I was kind of learning how to ride a horse and jump steers at
Hmm.
the same time when I did that, and that was just not the right way to go about it. If I could go back and redo anything, it would damn sure to be learn how to ride a little better before I started jumping steers. But yeah, it was a long road, and I'm just, yeah, happy to still be doing it.
That's something I think that gets overlooked in the steer wrestling is the horsemanship aspect of it and not having that tool right from the beginning. Because I feel like a lot of kids who get into it have had that foundation built up on the horsemanship side. So yeah, it must have been quite the learning curve to get both of those things happening at once.
Yeah, for sure. And like, I mean, I rode a horse around and whatnot. Like I thought I knew how to ride a horse until all of a sudden you had to learn how to score and be able to ride and get off all at the same time and everything. And it was just, yeah, a big learning curve. I was so nervous. I went out to Trigger Pews, was the first place that I was jumping steers at, and
Hmm.
I remember I got on this horse Hollywood I bought off Greg Weisgerber, and I was, yeah, didn't know anyone, didn't nervous as could be, and he told me to get on and warm him up, and I tried to just lope a circle, and this horse just did hot laps. I mean, around the entire arena, and I was hanging on for dear life, and everyone was getting a pretty good kick out of it. Well, it was time to start practice, and I asked who was going first, and there's you, and I was, oh shit, all right, we're doing this. I rode right into the haze box, rode into the wrong corner, and everyone was just, hey, wrong side there. And I just, yeah, I knew that. I knew that.
I was testing you guys.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that was the start of it. And I took a lot of wrecks through the start, but it's been a long journey.
What kept you motivated through that? I feel like there'd probably be a lot of points where you're like, man, did I make the right decision, or this is too hard, and so what kept you going through all those ups and downs?
Honestly, it was just something that was a bit of a challenge for me, I
Mm.
guess. Like I played football and hockey, and I mean, I wasn't an all-star in them, but they damn sure came a lot more naturally than rodeo did. I yeah, I don't know. It was just I love doing it, and it was
Mhm.
just something I really wanted to do, and it was, yeah, just kind of, it was my sport. Once I took it serious or decided I wanted to. I mean, I quit football and hockey and everything, and it was just, I don't know, something I knew I wanted to do. And there was damn sure times where I thought maybe I was making the wrong choice, and but if it wasn't for rodeo, I mean, I don't even know if I would have graduated high school, to be honest with you.
Oh,
like I
fair enough.
like I
So
didn't have a whole lot of interest in school at that time, and then high school rodeo damn sure made me want to pick my shit up and start taking care of business. And it's been amazing. It's given me a lot of opportunities, and I couldn't be happier doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's a cool thing of how like high school rodeo has changed over the years. Just up like the opportunities to go to school down south, even in Canada's got a pretty good solid, like it's pretty solid college rodeo scene now. Like there's for
Yeah,
people like you say for a lot of rodeo people, even the kids that I knew growing up, like they were not really interested in school. But then once the college aspect gets turned into it, the ability to rodeo after high school, like it kind of like turns the page for a lot of people.
for sure. That was like I could care less to study for a test or anything. Like I just didn't wasn't my deal. And then all of a sudden, once there was talk about going, I went to college down in New Mexico there for 4 years. And when I kind of figured out I could do that, that's needed to start taking care of business. And it was something I wanted to be able to do. I didn't want to screw that opportunity up for
Hmm.
some reason of just not giving a care about something. But it was damn sure what motivated me to get through to it. And I mean, just having the opportunity to go down there and be around those people and just kind of be in a different country, and there's
Hmm.
just a lot of connections you make. I mean, it's an amazing opportunity. I wouldn't change any of that for sure.
Well, it's such a good place to get like seasoned for one, like to eventually when you make the jump to the pros. And I guess the other thing too is like kudos to you for sticking it out because a lot of people who go down there from Canada don't usually stay for the whole 4 years. So, what kept you motivated to go back down there? Was it just like a good coach, good friends? Like how did you stick out the 4 years down in old New Mexico?
Well, it was yeah, same deal. It was just a long road. I mean, I thought I when I was in high school I was having some success or whatever, and kind of thought I had her figured out. And then you get down there, and it turns out that there's a whole different group of people and a lot
Hmm.
more of them, and it's a big world out there. And so it was a learning curve for sure the first year, and then after that, I mean, you only have 10 rodeos in the college rodeo season, and you
Hmm.
kind of have to draw good, but you got to learn how to use them because you only get so many chances. And I mean, you go down there with so much pressure with it being 10 rodeos, going down for a full year, like you get five a semester. And I was, yeah, same, just on the outside of making the college finals my second year, and I made me mad, and I told myself I needed to go back third year and make it. And same deal. I was right on the bubble again, and I was just no, I can't. Like this was a goal. I needed to do it. I knew I could, and I went back for my fourth year and ended up making the college finals. And it was a big goal of mine when I first got there.
Hmm.
So I wanted to make sure I got it done.
So who were some of the people early on who helped kind of move you along and help you develop your skills to get to that point to be a college national finals qualifier?
It honestly, I could sit here for 2 hours and give you a list of 1,000 people. Like it's been a lot. I mean, there's not a single, I don't think a single bulldogger in Canada that hasn't helped me just a little bit since I first started. I mean, it's been tons and tons of people, but for sure, I mean, like I mentioned at the start, Robinsons and them and Shuckbergs and then the Horrors and the Pews. And when I started going out to Trigger Pews and jumping steers, I mean, that's kind of was a mecca for bulldogging at the time. I mean, I remember there
Hmm.
being 25 guys practicing and all the big names and everyone that you knew of but never met before and stuff like that. And I mean, everyone's willing to help, and they kind of all pushed me along. And when I got to college, there was a ton of good help, and I had a good coach, Marty Aiken. He was an all-around guy and bulldog good and everything, and he was a great help too. I mean, just being able to practice 5 days a week down there and have someone break it down with you, and kind of be there just working on one thing. And it like I said, I could list a thousand people. I don't want to get naming too many names and forget people, but there's been so much help up here and down there. I mean, it's been amazing.
It's cool you mentioned that. It's one thing I've always admired about the steer wrestling, and I think not to single out a single event, but it's just so much camaraderie between you guys, and everybody's willing to lend a hand, and everybody's cheering for each other. Like you see someone make a good run, the line of like high fives that you have to go through to
You,
get back to
yeah,
the fence is unbelievable. So speak to that a little bit. Like what makes like what builds that camaraderie amongst you guys, and how does that help you like down the road?
I mean, it's huge just having the support. I think a lot of it is bulldogging it takes a lot of people just to even have a practice. Like
Hmm.
you need to make sure you got a good hazer and everything at the rodeos. But then if you go to practice, I mean, you can't just have a one-on-one practice session. I mean, you need a guy hazing, you need someone on the horns and someone tailing. I mean, it's just damn sure takes a lot of people. And I think that just being that part of it, I mean, we all practice together, a lot of us, and there's two or three main spots that guys are practicing. I mean, everyone's always welcome, and I think it's just, yeah, in the mountain side of it, like there's not as near as much horses. So I mean, everyone's sharing, and I think it's just kind of been built around that a little bit. It seems like, anyways, to me, like just a lot more of a sharing event, I guess. There's
Yeah,
only so many horses, and I mean, if someone's in your crew and you want everyone to win and you want your friends to win too, I mean, it's just, I don't know, it's definitely a tight knit group, and it's great.
it's cool to watch like a really fast round of steer wrestling because it's everybody is so into it. And I think that's the same in any event like saddle bronc riding, bull riding, barrel racing, whatever. But just seeing how because everybody like you said, there's only like two or three horses guys are riding, so everybody's standing together and hooping and hollering, and it's one of the funnest things to be a part
Yeah.
of. Like a fast round of steer wrestling is pretty dang awesome.
Oh, I know, it's so much fun, and like the I don't think there's almost better atmosphere at all than a big bulldog and jackpot too. I mean, when you get just the bulldoggers and you have 30 or 40 guys, and I mean, it's just a lineup of them, and you make a good run, and I mean, it's just a everyday jackpot, and it sounds like people go nuts, and it's crazy, and I mean, it's yeah, everyone's really for each other, I guess I should say, but it's pretty cool to
So
be a part of.
So part of this journey for you up to this point is obviously, I guess, like we kind of touched on, like a lot of ups and downs and near misses, and you're sticking with it. So part of that's going to be a strong mental game. So how have you developed that over the last however many years?
Yeah, I would say that's probably the biggest thing that I did struggle with, but it's just, yeah, not giving up and not quitting. I mean, my parents were big on making sure if you started something, you finished it, and there was, I mean, like I said, there was a lot of times I was wondering if I was doing the right thing or not, and I knew I had the ability to bulldog good enough to be doing it, but it always seemed kind of like if I got put in a corner, the odds were against me. You know, like it just didn't seem like I'd get
Hmm.
that one lucky break. It almost felt like, and I had to have a lot of long talks with myself and remind myself that you create luck, and just to keep your head up and keep going. And I've spent hours and hours listening to sports psychology podcasts and books and stuff like that. But just being biggest deal for me this year was the big change was just really focusing on being present, and
Mm.
just not getting hung up in the highs or lows. Like with previous years, I'd be really hot and cold. Like I might not start winning until damn near August, and then go on a heater and then slow it down. And I really wanted to focus on trying to stay consistent and be able
Hmm.
to win from the start, and trusting myself, and just not overthinking anything. You care too much, and you get thinking about everything too much, and it damn sure gets in your way more than it helps you.
When you hear like
But
the champions and stuff talk about it that way, like you can't get too high, can't get too low, and just that being present is so huge because like you could get into a deep hole with that whole like oh man I can't catch a break or poor me type attitude. So it's not easy to develop that present moment mindset.
yeah, a big part of it too was getting in with Scott Guenthner,
Hmm.
and traveling with him and having him haze for me and everything. And he's so level headed all the time. I mean, you watch him and he might yawn while he's riding into the corner to run his steer. Like he just doesn't let nothing bother him or anything like that. And just being around that mentality, and just kind of seeing how he goes about things and shrugs off the bad ones and carries on to the next one. And I mean, he's been a huge help in getting me to where I am this year, anyways, for sure.
Yeah, it comes down to like who you surround yourself with, and like I've been like ever since I've met Scott and got to know him, like I'm so impressed with the way he approaches things. You say he's so calm and cool, collective, but he's got that dog in him when it's time to put down a
Yeah,
big run.
no, for sure. And he damn sure doesn't mess up the good ones. I mean, everyone bugs him about drawing so good all the time and everything like that. And I mean, he damn sure does. If there's a pretty little Hereford in there, he's gonna have his name beside it. But he uses them every single time, and you can't ever take that away from him. And you bug him about drawing the good ones, and he draws a bad one that someone hasn't done anything in a while, and he'll be 3-5 on him. And it's just kind of the way he is. I mean, he's a freak.
Well, and how is
But
that? How inspiring has it been to have such a good group of Canadian steer wrestlers come through over the past even 15, 20 years? You mentioned Lee Graves, and we got the Cassidy boys and the Mylans, and you got Scotty G and Stephen Cullen going
yeah,
right now. Like it's got to be kind of like get your motor around and seeing how many guys from up here are having great success kind of across the board.
for sure. And I mean, all of those guys, same deal, or been idols and heroes of mine, and growing up and everything. And I've had the option or of ability to travel with most of those guys all a little bit here and there. And I mean, it's crazy when you grow up watching Curtis and guys like that and everything, and then get to travel with them and kind of make a friendship with all those guys that you looked up to. It's pretty cool to come full circle. I'd say I mean, like I there's not a bad person to travel with up here. I mean, everyone's so talented. I mean, the
Mhm.
bulldogging's really tough, and that was another thing. It wasn't that I was ever in with a bad group of guys. I had some maturing to do myself with just like you said, mental game and just everything and how I go about business. And yeah, there's not a single bulldogger up here that hasn't been a part of that and helped me out along the way.
Let's talk about horsepower. It's such a big part of steer wrestling as we touched on earlier again, but we have some really great horses up here in Canada, and I'm not sure who you're riding or if you got your own mount, but talk a bit about your horsepower and how meaningful it is to your success and the success of steer wrestlers overall.
Yeah, it's everything. I mean, that's by far the most important part in the bulldogging. It's a horse race, and uh, yeah, this last 3 years I've been riding Scott Guenthner's horse double double, and he's been amazing. I mean, he's just does his job and lets you work on what you need to do and don't have to worry too much about anything. And I think that's huge. If you're backing into the corner and kind of wondering if you're going to get screwed by your horse or if he's not going to stand in the corner, or if he's going to spit the bit or anything like that. I mean,
Mhm.
it takes a lot of variables out when you have some trust in your horse and you know that you're on a good one.
Um, I want to go back just to the beginning real quick because this popped in my head as a question. But what do you remember the moment when everything clicked when you had your first like you scored well, you got down good, and you threw a good steer? What was that moment like, and do you remember when it was?
Drayton Valley High School Rodeo, and like when I first started, I was playing football still, so I could only go to the Sundays of the high school rodeos. I couldn't go to Saturday, and I didn't have a single time the first semester. I just having hell, and then the next semester I went to Delburn, or next half of the year I went to the first one in Delburn and just missed. I had a chance to catch one and missed one, and was pretty mad at myself. And we went to Drayton, and I think I was 4-5 and 4-2 there, and was I just something worked, something clicked, and it was yeah, that was a all time high at that time in my life. I mean, it was just something I wanted to be able to do so bad, and finally finally kind of was able to do what I've been looking, watching videos and watching everyone else do, and was wondering why I couldn't do it. And it was kind of the first time that I actually felt that feeling of actually throwing one down good, and it was yeah, that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, you can't replace that feeling, man. It's so awesome. So when did you make the decision to go pro, and kind of what led into that feeling of being ready to get going and take the next level?
Yeah, so I amateur rodeoed. I went to all the FCA and LRAs and everything, and there in high school rodeo. And when I got into college, I mean, I knew I was putting a lot into it, and that was something. It was always when I started doing that was the goal. I mean, I didn't want to just do it as a hobby. I knew I wanted to try and become a professional and make the finals and everything. That was just instantly something that I had set out to do. I remember going and watching the CFR the first year that I actually started bulldogging out at triggers there and stuff, and met all those guys. And I remember Craig Weisgerber, that was his first CFR, and Kyle Felker, he was yeah, huge help and made the finals, and Trigger, they were all there, and just going and watching that and being in that atmosphere there in Edmonton. And it was I just yeah, that pretty much from that first perf that I watched there, I knew that's something I wanted to do. But when I got back from college, I mean I damn sure wanted to go bad, but it's just I knew I wasn't ready. Like I was winning at the amateur rodeos, but I wasn't winning enough that I felt like I could
Hmm.
just take my try and buy my card. And so I went to both and just rodeoed on my permit there the one year. And uh, I went to TP Creek and won second there and filled both my semi pro and permit there in one hit, and kind of had the option of just buying my card and going to them, or finishing out my year at the amateurs. And I figured I should finish what I started there too. And I just yeah, spent the rest of the year at the amateur rodeos and went to the FCA finals and stuff, and decided I won the FCA finals that year, and kind
Nice.
of told myself that that was my time to take the next step and see what it was all about. And I yeah, I jumped in with the Franks there in 17, and that was my rookie year. And I mean, when I first showed up, I wasn't sure if it was the right idea yet, or if you're in the right spot, and you're kind of little bit of self doubt here and there. And uh, I think Falkland was my first one when I come back from college, and pulled a check out of there and picked away pretty good. And I was in the top 25 anyways,
Hmm.
and kind of had a chance right down to Armstrong, stuff like that, and had a made in the short round of Pinoca the first year and stuff like that. It was kind of all feeling like it was clicking and meant to be, and
Hmm.
uh, went to school and come back and thought I had the whole deal figured out and was going to have a hell of a year, and that second year was just yeah, a nightmare. I could not do. I think I maybe won $30,000 the whole year. Like I just couldn't that and uh what I should be doing or not because I was like I've gone all year and I've been losing some serious money here. I got to go back to college and whatnot and but it just yeah it takes a lot. Like some people are able just to jump right into it and start winning and never really have too much struggle or anything like that. But just the being in the mental side of the game and everything like that and the bulldogging, it seems like just sometimes it takes a little bit longer for people to fully develop in the sport. And I damn sure noticed in the last 2-3 years just being able to decipher on the start and just little things like that
Mhm.
that shouldn't be a big deal, but just sometimes people people have a little bit of a hard time with, and it just takes once where it felt like I knew what I was doing, and then there was times where I felt like I'd never rode a horse before or thrown steer down, and it was just kind of those mental battles, getting through that and realizing that it's not the end of the world when it goes bad. But
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because
yeah,
it's one thing I guess I was wanting to get to this point eventually, but twice in the last 3 years you just missed the CFR within $500. You've been knocking on the door, and how much has that adversity played into your success you had this year? And again, how did you keep focused on the prize?
yeah. So in the last 3 years, like 3 years ago, I think I was within $500, and then the year after that, it was maybe 1,200, and then right around 500 again last year. And I mean, it was just damn sure some serious disappointment at the end of the year.
Hmm.
And can you still hear me here?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of disappointment. Yeah, it feels like a lot bigger deal than it is at the end of the year when you don't make it. I mean, you wake up in the morning and breakfast tastes bad. I mean, everything just kind of a little sour, and it it's just been something I've wanted, and I knew I couldn't get that close and not keep pushing for it. And
Mhm.
yeah, just in every stepping point in my career, I guess. In high school, it took a long time to get clicked, and then I ended up having some success at the last 2 years of high school, and then college, same deal. Kind of struggled for a few years and was able to push through it. And I just I knew if I didn't give up that I was gonna end up where I wanted to be. Just had to trust it, and sometimes it takes people a little longer than others.
Yeah, and that's got to be like part of that winning mindset, like rather like than being down the dumps and pouting about not making it the last 3 years. It's like, okay, well, I've been this close. It's going to come eventually, and that's obviously paying off for you in 2024.
Yeah, I noticed the year ahead or before and stuff. I kind of let it dwell on me a little bit more, and
Hmm.
I mean, it would eat at me, and I'd go into the year just trying way too hard because I'm like I was there, like I feel like I'm just gonna come right back into it, and that was kind of yeah, I don't know, needed to just forget about it, and the last year was last year, and just start my year fresh, and that yeah, it took some time this year when it was all said and done. It was a bit of a stinger, and I actually screenshotted when the results come out when they posted the top 12 there before the finals. It just made me sick reading it. I was pretty pretty upset over the deal, and I just screenshotted it and made my background on my phone there, and just for a little reminder every time I opened my phone, I got to see that I wasn't there, and it's enough to kind of keep me fired up over it.
Well, and let's talk. So let's talk 2024 then. What's it been like this year? You pulled some big checks. Like obviously this past weekend between Strathmore and Grimshaw, you won almost $10,000. You're going to be knocking on the door for the season leader. Yeah. What's been the difference maker in 2024?
Yeah, so it's been pretty much everything that I talked about before, just kind of being present in the moment and rolling with the punches and not getting too high or low. Like I damn sure would let things dwell on me a lot more than they should. And like every year I'd be starting to win towards the end of the year than the start, and kind of getting to crunch time and making things way bigger deal than they actually are, and trying to force things and force winning, and it would just start to go downhill in a in a quick manner. I mean, last year it felt like I couldn't do nothing wrong towards the end of the year, and then the last 5 rodeos I was in the top 12, and I could hardly get a time, and like it was just trying way too hard, and just wanting to make things happen and force it instead of just trusting yourself and just allowing yourself to go do your job and just have fun with it. I mean, I think that's been the biggest part, just trying to enjoy every bit of it.
So how is this past weekend going to change the end of the season for you? Like you say, you usually have been heating up, and then you're trying to keep your momentum. But now you're in a pretty good spot as we head into the end of the season. There's only 3 weeks left, I guess, now as we're doing this interview. But is it just going to be the same sort of deal as you head into the end of the season, or you have some breathing room now, so you can kind of feel like you can take a second?
Yeah, I've been trying not to take my foot off the gas at all. I mean,
Mhm.
I had a good weekend 2 weekends ago too there, and kind of after that, everyone was trying to tell me that I was safe and that I was good, and I refuse to admit it. I was like, I've been I've been at the bottom end too much. I'm not going to jinx myself, and it just kind of fully set in here this week, and I just plan on keeping my foot on the pedal and just keep doing what I'm doing. And I'm going south here for a little bit. I'm gonna go down to a handful of the Northwest rodeos and over top these next few weeks and try and get some more money won down there and maybe try and get qualified into some of the winter rodeos if I can. But yeah, for up here, it's just keep my foot on the pedal and try and win as much as I can before the season's done.
So does this, like, these last few weeks and where you're going to be end up in the Canadian standings once everything's all said and done after Strathmore, um, it kind of turns into a Canadian title conversation. Is that something that's on your radar, or are you like, obviously that's a goal for everybody when they set out to do this, but is it becoming more of a reality now after these last few weeks?
People ask, I mean, making the finals is always the goal, but I've had it in my head that I didn't ever just want to make like that's what I was never satisfied being that close and kind of on the bubble and people being like, oh, you're good now, you've got it made. It's never quite how I've looked at it. I mean, I the end goal is always to try and end up first, and it would it yeah mean everything mean everything to me if I could be within contention of it, and that's just all I've kind of focused on. I mean, it's not my goal wasn't to be 12th in Canada; it was to try and be first. So yeah, just keep keep my foot on the pedal and see where the see where the cards play. But it's been a huge goal of mine. So it's exciting to be in a spot to be able to make it reality.
Something I want to talk about with you is how much money is available in Canada these days. I've kind of talked about with everybody I've had on the last little while, but there's so much money you can win up here now. Like we're gonna have probably in the steer wrestling alone, there's gonna be like 5 or 6 guys who win over 20,000 or close to 30,000 before the season's over.
I think we were the last time event to do it or this year, but we just upped our fees and it has made such a big difference. I mean, there's hardly a rodeo that pays under $2,000 now,
Mhm.
and there's just so much money up now. Like it's crazy. I think last year the cut was right around 15, and this year like it's hard to say. Like everyone's there's it's so tight and everyone's got such a chance. Like it could be 20,000, it could be 18,000. Like
Mhm.
if it's getting to the point where the cut's going to be right around 20,000 for the CFR, and that's huge to see it and great to be able to go against that kind of money or for that kind of money. But and just like even there's not a bad rodeo up here anymore, and not that there was before, but there's not a bad paying one. I mean, you can
Mhm.
go to any rodeo and win $2,000, and it's been huge. And I think that we got more numbers this year too. I think people are starting to see that, and there's just a lot more guys staying hooked. Like you kind of a lot of the time people kind of start getting down in the dumps and quit entering. And I mean, there's so much money still left. I mean,
Yeah.
you can go to a weekend with two circuit rodeos and still be able to win $5,000. And I mean that can throw you up in the standings a long ways. Like it's been great.
Yeah, especially with how tight it is. Like you have a big weekend and you're making moves. Like you're a good example of that, even for like getting into the season leader conversation, like $9,000. Like that's a big jump.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's crazy. Like this time of year is always pretty stressful and people are kind of on edge, but it this year's going to be a little bit more I think than ever. Like the tour finals are going to be a huge deal. Being
Mhm.
kind of the lot there's you're going up against 10 guys and the last chance for money for the year. Like it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. There's going to be a lot of drama come time for the tour finals. I think it'll be a tight race.
That's cool. And going back to the point of you saying how many more people, like how much money is available, more people are rodeoing up here. Like your traveling partner is a good example of that. He's probably going to make the NFR just for rodeo in Canada and win that one big win at the NFR Open.
Yeah, no, it's nuts. I think I don't know if he'd admit it, but I think that's been kind of his goal was to try and make it in Canada. It's all, like he said he was retiring and he was so close last year, and I mean everyone was trying to give him a hard time about not going. Like you only have to go for one weekend. Just
Yeah, that's
go win
it.
some money
Yeah.
and make the final. Like you're you're not being very financially smart here. Like why not go to Vegas for 10 days and win a bunch of money? But this year I think he put himself in that same spot, and he's entered up now for the through the Northwest too, and just you can't get that close in Canada and not just go to a couple to make it. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't be surprised I wouldn't be surprised if he does get that done in the next couple of years of making it just up in Canada. I mean, he's proven he can damn sure do it, and I wouldn't
Mhm.
put it past him at all. It's pretty crazy the amount that guy can win.
Oh, it's wild. Like I said before, he's got that dog in him, and anytime he's back in the box, he's a threat to win. It's pretty fun to watch.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't matter. Like I said, he draws a lot of the good ones, but it doesn't matter what he has. Like he might be pissed off at the trailer and oh man, they haven't thrown my steer down since Pinocchio, and he'll go be 3-3 or 3-4 on him. It's just like, and then people might be long on him the rest of the way through. Like if Scott's three on a steer, it doesn't necessarily mean he's a layup. I mean, it's crazy. He's just very mentally sound and strong as an ox and just winning machine. Yeah, he's crazy.
So the CFR is heading back to Edmonton for the 50th edition, I guess, of the CFR now. How exciting is that going to be able to compete at Rogers Place and for that kind of money and just be in Edmonton for the 50th CFR?
Yeah, that's honestly huge. Like I grew up 20 minutes from where I first went to Edmonton and watched that wanted to be was in Rexall and in those white panels, and that was the goal. And when I moved to Red, that was my first year pro rodeo, and my rookie year was the last year they had it in Edmonton. And when they switched to Red Deer, I was kind of it was cool that it was coming close to home, but I'm like that's not what I've been dreaming of, and
Mhm.
as it uh as it grew in Red Deer and got better and better, I mean, it was just firing me up. There was nothing more that I wanted to make it there, and for hometown crowd kind of deal. And uh, but I mean, just trusting the process, and I mean, I think it was just meant to be come full circle. I get to go back to where I originally dreamt of going, and I couldn't be more excited. I've never been in Rogers Place before, so it'll be cool to see that. And yeah, I'm more than excited to step foot in there.
It's cool that it's funny how the way the world works or way life is where you dream of something like that for so long and then you get to like pop your CFR cherry at somewhere that's obviously like so meaningful to you.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. That's what got brought up the other day, and I hadn't really thought about it yet at the time, but it was, yeah. I mean, I couldn't be happier for my first one going to Edmonton. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's a dream come true for sure.
Right on, buddy. Cool. Well, I really appreciate the time today, Landon. Again, thanks for fitting me in last minute. I'll leave you to it. Good luck the rest of the season. We'll see you down the road and yeah, we'll catch up with you another time.
Sounds good. I appreciate it, Wacey. Thank you.
Right on. This has been episode, I think, 19 of the short round. We'll be right back after this. Alrighty, welcome back to the show, everybody. Thanks once again to Landon Beardsworth for fitting us in last minute, and we're stoked to watch him throughout the rest of the season here. But all right, Clay, we kind of got a little bit of a slower weekend, I guess, from from our standards. We got the only rodeo we got going on this weekend is the Dawson Creek Exhibition Stampede, the summer edition, another SMS Tour rodeo. By the end of the weekend, we can see another big shakedown in the Canadian standings.
Dawson Creek's just kind of always been that almost the only one on this weekend for quite a long time. There was a little bit of time where Jasper actually switched to
Mm,
this weekend. Again, kind of helps wrap up that north run.
hmm
You've as much as it's on its own for that weekend. We've had a busy stretch, and there's some people that probably want to get home and get some laundry done and check on some animals and everything like that. But yeah, it's still a game changer. I know I it was a rodeo, I think, when I look back, is one I placed at more times than most of the rest of them out there.
Hmm.
And I can remember one year for sure, I was ready to pack it in. I was far enough back and starting my first teaching job, and just said, I mean, I guess if Dawson goes well, and then I won it, so then I'm suddenly booking flights and doing things like that to finish the year, and it didn't pan out, but again, it's still a statement rodeo, and a
Hmm.
tough one up there. Guys and girls want to win that one. It's a cool stampede up there, and lots of fun to be had for sure.
Well, and looking at the schedule, Clay, I'm just pulling this. I just had this thought now. So Dawson Creek will be the second last opportunity for contestants to get points towards, or I guess the third last if you count the Armstrong Rodeo, but the third last opportunity. We're getting down to the wire if you want to make it to that tour final in Armstrong on the SMS Pro Tour. So if you, it's the time is now. There's no more time to waste if you want to get into that top 10 of the SMS Tour standings.
Yeah, again, as we mentioned at the top of the show, I mean, we had four tour rodeos in 5 days. They kind of think like they're everywhere, but yeah, with just Lethbridge and then the two events that count in Armstrong, yeah, we're running out of those bigger opportunities. So this does put a bow on that,
Hmm.
and you want to see yourself within striking distance and on the inside of those SMS tour standings after Dawson. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's some big time implications on there, and I guess moving on. That's I guess well. Anyways, what I was saying, I guess throwing it back to the first part of the show. That's where I was going. Sorry, my brain is going about a million miles an hour. If you want to keep up with what's going on up in Dawson Creek, I think by the time the show comes out, we'll be well into the after the first perf. But it's on the Cowboy Channel, so hit up Cowboy Channel Plus app or cowboychannel.com. I'm sure you can find what the schedule's like, but that'll be a good one to follow along with this weekend. Okay, Clay, moving things along on more of a kind of a sad note. We just want to extend our condolences to the Ashbacker family on the passing of Judy, kind of the matriarch of the family. Where Cole and Dwayne and Colton, I think is Cole's brother's name. I could
Awesome.
be wrong. Austin, sorry, I'm awful with names. But anyways, they're such a great family, and this is not an easy time for them. But we just wanted to give a shout out to the Ashbacker family. Dwayne's been the multiple time steer riding contractor of the year. He's wild horse racing, wild cow milking champion, and obviously Cole, what he's been doing in the saddle bronc riding over these past few years. And they're such a great family, and it's tough loss, and we just wanted to extend our well wishes to them.
You bet. I mean, Dwayne, he's done a lot in the sport of rodeo. I mean, competed in the wild horse racing and everything like that. Raised some amazing stock. I saw the one bull that Eno's just sold to the down south for the PBR had come from Ashbackers
Hmm.
there. And I know they're ranch and rodeo family, but somebody like Judy, she just that's the glue that holds it all together. And I saw when Cole had done well there in Regina, he had said this one was for you, Mom, and yeah, I mean, I got to know Austin a little bit through the University of Alberta there, and obviously known Cole. They're just, yeah, you can tell they're good people, and that's a lot goes back to there with Judy, and condolences to them at this time.
Yeah, and another person we want to send some well wishes to is Luke Ellingson, former Canadian champion bull rider. His son Jim was involved in the steer riding accident. I don't know all the details on it, but Clay, you have a better idea, so I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, so right now he suffered an injury in the steer ride and had a steer go down on him, and just right now it's a lot of uncertainty on what the condition is. Again, there's support there for them. There's again another kind of Facebook benefit auction to help the family there at this time. And Luke Ellingson he's one of the toughest people
Hmm.
I've ever seen. I mean,
Yeah.
I I can remember seeing him in the one bar in Kennedy, and he must have played a lot of pool in there because he knew that the balls would get stuck in there. And I mean, he lifted it all the way up to his chin basically to make them things fall out. And I mean, yeah, he just a tough cowboy and everything, but it doesn't matter at a time like this. It's a hard thing to be
Mhm.
going through when you're a parent and having your kid that was trying to live their dream and compete and everything like that, and just to have an accident like that,
Mhm.
it's tough. You know that everybody in the sport's going to rally around them and support them and be there at this time, and you're just hoping to see just gains and advances in the condition there to get better.
Yeah, I know that's a good point there, Clay. We hope yeah, we'll get some speedy recovery happening there. And rodeo's a big family. We want to take care of each other, and it's tough to see when one of our own go down or when we lose somebody as important as Judy Ashbacker, for example. It's not an easy time, but we all know we'll come together and we'll come out better of it on the other side. So I guess we'll leave it at that. But in other news, we have a really exciting announcement to make. We're just kind of recently developing. As we all know, the 50th anniversary of the CFR is heading to Edmonton this fall, and part of that is the Canadian Country Expo. The Canadian Country Expo, what they're trying to do is bring a bunch of different trade shows, Western event programming, from bullfights to barrel races, futurities, all this different kind of stuff. But also part of that is they're going to have some live podcasting going on. So we just got invited to do the short round live for the first time ever up in Edmonton at the CFR. So I'm super stoked about that. We'll be hitting the stage over there at the Canadian Country Expo from 10 to 11 every day. We'll be bringing on past champions, current champions, competitors, anybody we could think of to bring on, we'll be bringing them on. It'll be super fun, Clay. I'm excited to do some live hosting with you.
Yeah, it's going to be great to be there with guests in person. I mean, it's the conversations there you'll get to have, and the insight that you'll gain from again past and current champions will be just an awesome opportunity. I'm pretty excited for that. So it'll be a good time in Edmonton for sure.
Yeah, it'll be fun to kind of have a part in the 50th anniversary of the CFR. So much history between Edmonton and Red Deer, and just being back in that situation, it's gonna be a blast, and we're excited to be part of the Canadian Country Expo. All right, I think that's gonna do it, man. Episode 19, we've been grinding it out, and it's gonna be fun. I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and we'll catch up with you, and I guess probably next week for the half point. Seems like we get to talk quite a bit over these few weeks here, Clay.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover for sure. And again, we're just with that season ending this much earlier right now is just that much more critical. So it's good
Yeah,
to give people a little heads up. I mean, as rodeo fans ourselves, it's just good to
you
get to
betcha.
talk about it all.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today, and we'll catch up with you next week. And yeah, that's gonna do it. Episode 19 of the short round. Thanks everybody for listening. Be sure to follow along at Pro Rodeo Canada CPRA on the social medias, rodeocanada.com. You can find all the info and results and everything you need there. And we'll keep you guys updated as we learn more about our live show at the Canadian Country Expo here in Edmonton. But thanks again for listening, and we'll see y'all later.